My only question is what happens when Mel comes?
Yeah, it was 0 this morning.
No, that's Lisa's fault.
Yeah.
Well, you moved to the good side though, because the only time I ever got in trouble was the one time I sat on that side. Also in the summertime, Thomas, they blow cold air.
They still haven't handed me the new one yet.
It's funny, it's not a change. Just check off the other one. All right. Are we all set?
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of council for February 20th, 2019, and we're starting at 7:01 p.m. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councillors tonight? Do we have any items from administration?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a number of amendments to the agenda. We'll add item 3.1, Economic Development Officer. We will add item 7.6, Council Committee Appointment, Library Board. We will delete item 10.2, Bylaw number 1905, Emergency Management Bylaw. And we will add item 12.1, Statement by Councillor Bauer.
Thank you. And at this point, I'd be looking for a motion. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, with your wherewithal, I would like to add a 7.7 appointment to Canadian Badlands.
Good point. Thank you. Anything else, councillors? Then I'm looking for a motion to confirm as amended. Councillor Corbeil.
I move to confirm the agenda as amended.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Which brings us to item 3, presentations or recognitions. Item 3.1, we have a staff presentation. Thomas, are you speaking? I think you're speaking to this one, are you?
This is economic development?
Yes, sir.
Your Worship, members of council, I'm very pleased this evening to introduce to you our new Economic Development Officer, Alexandra Ross. Alexandra joins us most recently from the town of Okotoks, where she was part of their economic development team and was part of several award-winning tourism and economic campaigns. We're very excited to have her join us here at the town of Strathmore.
Thank you, Thomas, and welcome to our staff. Would you like to say anything?
Just that I'm very excited to be here in Strathmore and hoping to have a positive impact and be more bring more support for our businesses here in Strathmore. And we know economic development doesn't happen overnight, and it's a very collaborative process. So I'm very excited to get this started.
Great. Well, we're really glad to have you, and welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Pat?
Councillor Sobel.
Excuse me, Ms. Ross, I just wonder if I could just ask you a quick question. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Did you have anything to do with the Okotoks famous "There's Nothing to Do in Okotoks"
You made
program?
a number of things to do, and I was the project lead. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to what you can do for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we have no delegations. Item 4, no delegations. I should learn how to speak. Item 5, confirmation of minutes. 5.1, the regular council meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2019. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the council approve the regular council meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2019 as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.2, the confirmation of regular council meeting minutes for February 6th, 2019. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I move that council approve the regular council meeting minutes for February 6, 2019, and that council rescind resolution number 039.02.19, second reading to land use bylaw amendment bylaw number 18-25.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. You've heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. I don't think we have any tabled items, so that's item 7 7.1, Town Hall. And that's on page 19 of your agenda package. And Mr. Legore, are you speaking to this? Welcome this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight we want to just talk to you about the design of the town hall. We have an option for you to consider. One thing I'd like you to recognize, what we're going to show you are really just footprints. We have not reflected anything yet about our consultation with First Nations, Siksika, nor the Historical Society to bring that into the building. And the orientation of the one public entrance, we feel in itself it's better to Siksika elements, and this is based on what GGA has told us, Gibbs Gauge have told us based on their experience working with the school. The main thing that we want to stress here, what we're proposing is a reduction of the impact on Kinsman Park. So we have the bit of there was concern that the building is quite long, that there was going to be a bit of a wall there. And so that's the option 1 that you see. And if we can go to option 2 here, we're suggesting that we put, it's kind of an L shape. I don't want to say total L, but there's a bend in the building. And on the northwest corner there is where the council chambers would be, and then the administrative offices would still be on the other side. And the public entrance would be right in the center there. And we'd like council to confirm that they're fine with this angled building, as we're calling it, rather than the straight wall, and then we can proceed with the final design. And with that, I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Legore. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Peterson.
Do you have cost differentials at this point, Mr.?
We do not expect there to be any impact on the cost of the project by changing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Corbeil?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a quick question in regards to where the placement of the pavilion is. Is that back? It's way back here?
I don't have a pointer here, but the pavilion would be on the east side of that screen.
Okay.
The right side of the
So
screen.
not really close?
No.
Okay. And my other question is, I guess I'm kind of wondering why it was okay when we first had it on the west side and it's not really okay when we have it on the east side. I'm just not sure why we would change it for one side or the other.
That's a good question, and there is an easy answer to it. On the west side, you have more parking lot there, so there would be no impact on the green space, whereas you go to the eastern side, by going straight down, you're going to be going into the green space a bit.
Okay, and my last question, sorry, if I may, what would be like the even estimated dimensions, like how?
Percentage?
I guess yes, and even approximately how long would it be along the Park Lane Drive?
Park Lane Drive.
So basically, where we take it out from the 1 point.
Would not be quite twice as wide, and it takes about
So
30% off of the east side. So you see that hatch box is going to switch around and go on Park Lane Drive.
So if it's double, would it be like 120? Because it was like 60
no,
before, wasn't it?
No, it was 60 wide.
Yeah.
And so it'll be less than 120. It'll be probably around 100.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. I have Councillor Sobel, then Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you. Thanks for this. I really like this idea. Just you mentioned that the entrance would still be in the center.
Yes.
Center of what?
Do you see where the arrowhead is? The center will be just a little bit to the right of that.
In here?
Yes.
So it would be to the right here?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I'm just wondering if there's going to be access from that wall side of the building, if there's going to be a road down there, or if the road will be in the front.
There is going to be two accesses in the front in the parking lot, one on Park Lane and one on Lakeside, or maybe both on Park Lane. We're still looking at that, how to best configure it. But there will be access behind the building, but we don't believe that we need that for public access. It would strictly be for internal use.
And
such
how
as
far from the
waste
property
management.
line will it be from, to the other, to
We're-
what is owned by the other
We're
company?
still looking at that, but there would probably be, I believe it was 15 meters, if I have my number right, distance between the property line and the building. It's sufficient that we can put a laneway there so we can get in there for waste pickup, et cetera.
And then my last question is, does this still include the commercial space?
The space is there, it's no longer commercial space, and the deck will be removed. What we have designated for commercial space will be for future growth or something. That use will be determined at a later date. But we're still going to leave that space in the building rather than take it out. Because if you start taking that space out, then you have a major shift in the design of the building, because it's on one floor. You've got to take off the floor above it then, or have a part of it sticking out.
So you'll have it, so it'll be a wall that you'll be able to punch out and build on that end part where
Yes.
you're removing it to
Yeah.
put it for the council chambers?
Yeah.
But right now, it is not designated for commercial space? Okay. And was that something that?
Council can decide that at a later date, what they want to do with that space.
Okay, thank you.
So if I could follow up on Deputy Mayor Bauer, it could be commercial lease space if a council decided they wanted to do that in the future?
That's correct. If you got pressure from someone in the community that wanted to lease some space in there, then you could make that decision. It will be council's decision.
Thank you. Does that answer your query?
Yeah.
Query. I used that word. That was good. Thank you. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. Where do you anticipate expansion will be? Will we be building kind of where that red X is?
That is one option where we could go there, but we're hoping with change in technology that this building will last us for a very, very long time, in excess of 25 years.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Are there any other questions or comments? I have none either. I think the councillors have asked everything that I was thinking of.
Just a question to James, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Do you want a resolution, James, on, if we could, on which design you prefer?
Councilor Peters, your worship, Your worship, I would move that council adopt option 2, the angled building for the new town hall site.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? No opposed? Motion is carried. It's tough that we air our dirty laundry in public.
Okay, now it's good.
Item 7.2, Policy 7202, Parks Classification and Maintenance Policy. Craig Nichols. And welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Council and Mayor. What's before you is a proposed policy from the Operations Department. Basically, that the council adopt a new parks classification and maintenance policy. You've got the document in front of you, so I won't read verbatim everything that's in here. But basically, as we presented back in council back in January, or December, I think it was December, sorry, my apologies, is basically we want to classify the parks into different classifications. And Donna is here to go through all the details of the document that she prepared. But basically what it will allow us to do is target our resources towards the higher end classifications and be basically more efficient in how we operate and how we look after all the different parks. So what I propose is that the council would basically approve and adopt the policy as put forward that from our department. So.
Thank you, Craig. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually had one question. I remember when this was presented, after I was looking at it, and I didn't see where the soccer fields are. I know that our soccer fields are looked after by soccer, minor soccer, or whatever it is, but around it, do we still do that area? I couldn't find it in the classification lists. That's why I'm asking.
Ryan, I believe that the soccer fields had not been turned over to the town yet?
No, but we do around the area, right? Like around the soccer fields? We don't even touch around there?
It's all them, all the
That's-
soccer
Really?
association that maintains that.
We maintain the pathways, but that's about it.
Your worship, yeah, with regards to those, the developer hasn't FAC'd it, which is the way that they're turned over to the town. So until they do, it remains the responsibility of the developer or, but I think, yeah, in this case, minor soccer is doing all the work on their behalf.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Montgomery.
I'm ready with a motion, whenever that's.
Do you have a question? Okay, if you could wait, Councillor Montgomery, just till any questions may come up. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I have a few questions. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Donna. So there's a pocket park downtown between Joyland Theatre and the Chinook Credit Union. Is that included in the Class A on appendix page 27?
That's not our property.
Okay,
That
so
is
they
all the
maintain
credit
that.
union.
Okay, that was the first one. And then on page 28, it says Cambria Place. Because I live on Cambria Place, I'm wondering which park you're referencing, and I'm thinking it's Fort Cambria behind. Is that
Let me get to your
the
page.
park?
What page?
28.
Is there 28?
Number 10, Cambria Place.
Yeah, without a map, it would be a park because it is a Class B, so it's whichever park is in the area.
Okay, so it's in the area, it's just behind Cambria Road?
Yes.
Not behind Cambria Place, so I just wanted clarification on that.
And you know what, this is all straight from the ArcGIS program.
Yep.
So when I click onto the park, that's exactly what it calls the name as Cambria Place. So I did notice that there is some discrepancies in the naming of the green space or the park in many occasions that you might look at this and say, that doesn't make sense, why it's called that.
Okay, so it's just the way that
It's
somebody
just the way
named
it
it.
is on the ArcGIS program.
And then just regarding graffiti, is the town of Strathmore, can we look into purchasing graffiti removal kits for purchase by the business community? That was one of the suggestions by, I believe it was Communities in Bloom. And so is that something that we can do to help you with the graffiti removal?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And then lastly, on page 37, it says that weed removal will only be done once during a calendar year. And I'm just wondering if that's enough.
Yeah, I get it.
My secretary's gonna
We have different numbering.
Especially on the boulevards. What seems to happen is in May, everything starts to grow, and then by the end of June, it's quite high. And then again in August, it gets, especially
Are you
around.
talking the cracks in the sidewalks?
Yeah, and the
So-
boulevards.
Basically, again, this is just a minimum standard. So if we go in the springtime, weeds are popping up again in the sidewalks, that doesn't mean we're just going once. We're not gonna let the town become unsightly.
So
That's not
the
the intention
minimum.
of this at all, that's a bare minimum of how many times we'll be visiting it. So if it needs it, we'll be there twice, 3 times depending, right? That Aquaside machine is gonna help us immensely take care of things like that.
I'm very impressed that we have that steam machine to be able to help out there. And then lastly, let's see, page 38. Just under curb sweeping, spring and fall cleanup.
Yes.
I just found that a little bit awkward. The first sentence reads, all possible curbed areas adjacent to a roadway that receives sand applications will be swept each spring of winter sand and gravel in conjunction with street sweeping activities.
Okay, so what that means is that we have an attachment that will go on to a weed whip, or our small Kubotas can put a broom on it. So anywhere where there's a sand application or a salt application in the winter time, obviously that material ends up onto the green space. So that's gonna be swept off in conjunction with the actual street sweeping, which I don't
very
think
cool.
has ever been done from what I see.
No, I
Well,
think
what
that's
we've done
really cool.
This past spring, what we do is we basically fire it into the roadway, and the street sweeper comes by and grabs it
Picks
up.
it up, yeah. So it just helps that turf grow, right, instead of it just, because it's not the best material on the green space, so you end up with a lot of weeds. So the intention is to try to actually just get the grass to grow instead of it just being every weed that we can possibly think of in there.
Thank you for clarifying that, and I really think this is a positive step towards maintaining a really great-looking town. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had one question, and that's actually to Trent, which ties into parks. And that is Hillview Drive, where we've put in the new baseball diamond and soccer fields. Will we be expanding and lengthening that playground zone? And will that happen when the fields become active? I know there's some renovation work that has to be done there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we will be extending it to where the backstop is
Okay.
for enforcement purposes.
Will that happen even before the fields are able to be used, or does it happen when they start to be used as an actual playground?
We'll work with operations, but I live up in that area, so if we start seeing some active use, even non-organized active use, well, then that's the time that we need to start doing some education with the drivers and starting to bring them.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
If I could just
Craig?
add, Mike Payton's already approached us on that to expand it, and that's one of the things we're planning to do in the springtime.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Peterson?
Your worship, at risk of getting remonstration from legislative services, I'm stepping outside of the core, but each time that this comes on into council and Donna shows up, I get requests from constituents asking for education services. And so I don't need an answer. I just want to say that there is a great demand for your services from a public perspective on understanding care of and maintenance of greenery and shrubs and what to plant and what not to plant. And so I know that after this meeting, I'll hear about it again. And so I know that you're participating in the Communities in Bloom, but if there's ever opportunity for lunch and learns or public access to that knowledge, there is a great desire on the part of community, and it just really speaks to the very, very good work you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. And that brings us back to Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, just great job on this. It's really thorough, so thank you very much. And I actually look forward to seeing the efficiencies from it. And with that, I will move that council adopt the parks classification and maintenance policy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Montgomery. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And again, thank you for all your work on this. It makes it a lot more clear for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 7.3, Safety Codes Inspection Services. And Justin, you're speaking to this one? Yes. And welcome this evening.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council. Here today to talk about safety code inspection services and standards. Here to request that Council approve entering into a contract with Park Enterprises for the safety code inspection services for building, gas, plumbing, and electrical, as well as that Council approve the Town of Strathmore Quality Management Plan for 2019, which outlines the operational requirements and standards for safety code inspections. So currently the town contracts safety code inspection services for all gas, plumbing, and electrical permit inspections. We also contract the same vendor for building inspection cover when our SCO is away. The current contract with the vendor is coming to an end. We released an RFP on December 14th of last year to be able to attract and fairly evaluate potential new vendors to ensure that we were receiving the best quality of service for the best price. We received 2 vendor submissions. Internally, we created an evaluation group of 3 members from planning, engineering, as well as our SCO. And part of the RFP outlined a weighted matrix to evaluate the proposal. Based upon the 2 applications, Park Enterprises were selected as the successful vendor based upon the score that they received being the highest score. Just a very quick summary of the three areas that Park received higher scores than vendor number 2. This is based upon capability, which included cost and meeting current budgets, experience in terms of the references we conducted, and just the overall submission quality in terms of the interview and the package that they put together. So those were the three areas that we scored them higher. So some of the key benefits of going with Park Enterprises, this will provide an approximately 17% saving cost for all applicants and also residents when they apply for gas, plumbing, and electrical permit applications. This also will save the town approximately 27% in terms of when we hire them to cover our SCO. We believe that they are very capable, experienced, and definitely qualified, and the comparable service with a lower cost, I think, is a great way to move forward for the town, and a really great way for us to be able to convey to the residents that they'll be receiving a comparable service for a lower cost. I just wanted to really quickly highlight an exciting new change we are having with inspection services, that right now that all new inspection services will be going through our website, and it's going to be easily accessible. So we've added a link on our quick links section just underneath there, permit inspections. This will take all applicants to a form. This will be sent directly to Park as well as to our own development counter. This will enable us to track it, the permits, and really, I think, really create more accountability in terms of when they're coming in and when the inspections were taking place. In the past, applicants would call the existing vendor directly. We would sometimes get complaints in terms of we could have called them on X date, they only came out on this date. So this really helps for the town to be more involved in the process and for us to hold Park accountable as to when inspections will be taking place. The second request we have for council is that council approve the Town of Strathmore Quality Management Plan for 2019, which will outline the operational requirements. So the Quality Management Plan, it's a document that the town must adopt, which does establish the standard we need to follow in order to implement the Safety Codes Act. So Park, as well as our own SCO, will be following this plan and the number of inspections and the minimum requirements that are expected. So what the QMP does, it establishes the areas of the town that we will be taking care of in terms of issuing permits, which is mentioned as plumbing, gas, electrical, building and fire, sets out minimums for information which is in the permit application, as well as the minimum number and the timing of inspections for each permit. It also outlines a process for completing and following up on inspections and the process that the town will go through when we issue an order under the Safety Codes Act. There's also a requirement underneath there for an internal audit of the system, which we'll be undertaking every year to ensure that we are following the QMP plan, as well that Park is doing that as well. So the current QMP was adopted in 2015. We believe there was a major oversight by the town at that time, which basically required that every residential dwelling needed to have a minimum of 1 inspection every year. So this would equate to about 4,000 inspections annually, which would really create huge strain on the fire department. The update, yeah. So the update to the plan is just to reflect a more reasonable inspection standard, which would mean just an annual inspection of residential buildings for only 13 units and above. Anything smaller can still be inspected through the request by the owner, or if the fire department deems that there's any reasonable cause to inspect that. And we've worked with the fire department who who've agreed with these changes, and Trent is here to answer any questions in terms of the fire-related QMP plans. And an update is also required as there are some new safety code inspection standards that have come out through the Safety Codes Act for building, plumbing, gas, and electrical. So just a very quick summary of what some of these updates would mean. Really most of the time there's increased inspection requests as part of the new Safety Codes plan for single dwelling units, multifamily, as well as commercial. At the end of the QMP document does kind of outline all the minimum inspection requests that need to be undertaken for each type of development. So yeah, in summary, we're here to ask Council to approve entering the contract with Park Enterprises, and as well that Council approve the Town of Strathmore Quality Management Plan 2019. Happy to answer any questions, as well as Trent is here as well for any fire-related questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for this. So this was a very difficult document for our councillor to go through because, you know, way out of our depth, way out of my depth anyway.
Very technical.
And way out of my depth. So I tried to think about, you know, what is council's responsibility, because this is it. You know, whatever we decide here and goes forward, we have responsibility for, and there's just a great many things that I struggle with. For me, what became important was to look to the organizational chart and to see, so to ask two questions. So the first one is with regards to fiduciary responsibility, and would there be increased costs regarding staffing around our current organization? That's my first question.
Through the chair, no, there won't be any increased costs.
My second question is with regards to the organizational chart itself. So when I look at it, it's different. The one on page 8 or page 62 of our package, and I know this might not be something that we can answer in a public meeting. So I look to legislative services for guidance. But what I don't know when I look at this organizational chart is who is who.
Right.
And so that is something that I found difficult to get my head around from an organizational perspective when I didn't know who these people would be other than the one at the top.
Through the chair, because the QMP is sort of a long-standing document, so as I said, the
Yes.
Existing one has been in place for the last 4 years.
Yes.
The individuals, obviously, underneath the titles could change. So being specific in the QMP plan as to who the CEO was or who the...
Right.
It's more to identify that those were the titles that would be managing this plan, and... Yes, so I mean, myself personally, I'd be the new QMP manager.
Are you allowed to tell us who the people are here?
These are contract?
Well, I know those. I'm talking about the ones in the top 3 lines, well, other than yourself, and now Justin.
There's me and Justin.
Right?
And Harry.
Yeah.
And
The permit issues that are right? Yep.
Meets
Yeah.
Audrey and Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then fire.
And then fire.
All right.
There's no new bodies, it's just
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Justin. Great information, and I'm glad we've made those changes. One thing that I didn't see a lot of, I mean, there were some comments in regards to it, but in regards to client satisfaction, and,
Right.
and I'll be specific as to why I raised that issue, because we have not had any complaints that I'm aware of in the last number of years. But if I go before that, there were lots with a previous company that provided a window for attendance of 1 day.
Right.
Be that a Tuesday or a Friday. And there was great difficulty in getting them to narrow that window to a normal 3 hours or whatever. They refused to do it, and that was actually one of the reasons why we went away from that company. I just don't want to see that us go back down that road again. Client satisfaction, as far as I'm concerned, is an important part of this. These clients are paying good money for this, and I think they should be met halfway with the inspectors, and not waste a whole day waiting for them to show up. So I wish I had seen something like that, but I'm hoping that was something that, or that is something that you're able to tell us that we won't be having an issue with this company.
Through the chair, absolutely. I mean, one of the main things we worked with them on is customer service. And so we have a 48-hour window when someone calls for an inspection to when they go out. Right now, they're proposing Wednesdays and Fridays to come out because they also coordinate with some other municipalities around the area. We've asked them to give an afternoon window for all inspections, so say 1 to 4 o'clock. So absolutely, that was part of it, that we don't want people to have to take a whole day off work for someone's going to come in. So that's what they've guaranteed us. That's what's going to be how we book with them, or when the client sends the email, Park will give them a call back to say, we will come out Wednesday, Friday afternoons. You book the time you want us to come. So absolutely, customer service was
great. If I could just
high.
quick follow up, Your Worship. So that's great. Thank you. Is there any desire or program in place to get some input from the clients?
So we have actually a survey that's in place right now, which I was going to provide more of an update for when we have our planning and development.
Make a comment, Matt.
Sorry.
I think all the mics went out at the
No, they're back on again.
Oh, we're back.
Sorry,
No.
Justin. Yes.
So we've
Thank
actually implemented a survey, I would say about 3 weeks ago, that we've asked all our staff to send to all our clients and applicants and vendors. So we can't force them to fill them out, but we've implemented that. Every week we've been sending reminders up. So really part of those quarterly updates to you is to really assess how well we're doing. As well, we do want to hear from the public. If there's areas to improve, which I'm sure there is, we're not perfect, but please let us know. And it's all about trying to improve customer service. So
absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Justin, my only question is how much was budgeted for this contract?
So it's an ongoing contract in terms of building coverage. Harry's away 4 to 5 weeks of the year. They'll do inspections twice a week. So unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers to date. The fees for Park, it's a separation. They receive 70% of the permit fees, and the town gets 30%. And we pay them up front, kind of 50% and back 50%. So my apologies, I don't have exact financial numbers. But we can certainly send you those based upon last year. So
I was just looking because I thought that perhaps you had gone to a one-year contract to not only save money, but also to address customer service and address the fact that if you did have any issues within that year period, that you would be able to switch after a year.
So the contract right now is for 3 years with a 1 year extension.
1 year extension.
So I said the fees that Park proposed for gas pumping were actually lower in terms of the comparable service. So it's a savings to the applicants, as well as when they have to cover Harry, that's a saving to also us in terms of what they proposed for the building coverage.
Thank you.
If you want those numbers, we can certainly get them to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just follow up on your question, Deputy Mayor Bauer. This inspection company that we're thinking of awarding the contract to, it operates to complement our own inspection, doesn't it? And if ours if we have a holiday or he's away, then they step
Just
in?
for building inspections.
Okay.
So they would do all gas, plumbing and electrical. It's when Harry's away, they would cover Harry. So so there's no drop in service, which we've had in the past as well.
Thank you. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the report on this. So one question would be, will inspections be provided on the same, let's say, frequency as they are now?
Yes, through the chair, yes. So they'll be, with our previous vendor, they were twice a week, and that's the exact same frequency. So it'll be happening on Wednesday and Friday afternoons for all the disciplines.
Okay. And so just to be clear, so the actual end cost for the town and builders or developers is less with
Yes,
Park?
yes.
Okay. And I guess, like, are you able to tell us, you know, it says that the evaluation group negotiated a split of 70-30. Is that better than what we were doing with Superior?
So the 70-30 split, what we were doing now is we would pay everything at the end of the contract, and their fees were a lot higher. So it was a 50-50 split when we would pay them. So the 70-30 is the same, it's just the actual timing of when that's paid.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Peterson.
I just wanted to follow up to something that Councillor Sobel had mentioned with regards to reporting and evaluation. So will there be published, like, data capture, like real-time quality data that we'll access through that? Is that what weighted matrix of numerical scores means?
So the weighted matrix was for the process when we went through the two.
Oh, okay. For deciding on the,
the customer service feedback, we're running it through SurveyMonkey. There's an actual survey with also comments. So what we're able to do is extrapolate from that in terms of success, in terms of good, bad, or not, and get some of the comments. So we're able to track how we're doing.
Maybe we could incorporate a really good data capture process as well.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to, you know, maybe not in this year, but it would seem to be reasonable that if we're going to enter into, you know, a higher level quality management plan, that some good data capture and some good software, like of the sort that Ms. Swatsky's been dealing in recently, might have the capacity to also do that. I think that system can do anything, remember, but, you know, it probably has some capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. And I have one question for administration, Mr. Thackeray. This is an age-old question that comes up when these kinds of contracts are being negotiated. We can't just give an award or award something to a local firm or firms that have local. We're still bound to do a different way to award contracts. Do you follow my question?
Newest trade agreement.
Yeah, the new West Trade Agreement, does it follow something like this where we can't just award it to a company that has local people or a local company? We have to weigh everything, correct?
Through the chair, yes, we have to consider all the factors. It's a broad criteria, and that's part of the procurement process.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sobel.
I'm ready with a motion, Your Worship.
Perfect.
I would move the council approve entering into a contract with Park Enterprises, Inc. for safety code inspection services for building, electrical, gas, and plumbing, and further that the CAO and mayor be authorized to sign that contract.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? The motion is carried. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would move that Council approve the Town of Strathmore Quality Management Plan 2019, which outlines the operational requirements and service delivery standards for safety code inspections.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. That motion is on the floor. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you for your work and your presentation tonight, Justin. Item 7.4, Investment Review Committee. And Mark, you're coming up for this. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I'm here today, excuse me, on behalf of the Community Investment Fund Committee in regards to the Strathmore Lions Charter Night event that was held last Saturday, February 16th. In late mid-January, administration received the application from the Lions in advance of our March 1st deadline, and due to the timing of this event, we requested the committee meet and provide us with their recommendations. Unfortunately, due to some challenges trying to form the committee, a meeting was conducted via email, and out of three, there was one committee member who indicated their conflict as they were part of the Lions, so we were unable to have a quorum. And as a result, there was 2 recommendations that were discussed by the committee members. At this time, we're asking for that council approve $5,000 for this event based on the historical significance of this event, as well as the Lions' involvement in the town of Strathmore.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that presentation. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mark, I just have one question. It's not clear to me on the expenditure sheet how much was in kind. So on page 1 of Schedule C, where it says expenditures on the bottom, it says CM room donated. Was that the only donation on that line? Was just the Chuck Mercer room?
That is correct.
And what is the value of the donation?
I'd have to pull the actual rental contract.
And then the next line, the hall, audio, visual, and 2 screens donated as a town, was that a full donation of $500?
That's correct.
Okay. So why did they list it under expenditures instead of making it a net? Because they did, because if it was a donation.
So what they've listed there is all the expenses that they would have incurred.
That they would have.
That they would have, right? So if they didn't receive the $5,000 from the CIF fund, and this is the way our process is that they list all their revenues and expenditures as is, and then at that point we determine whether we can provide in-kind donations or whether it's a cash donation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Councillor Montgomery.
First of all, I just want to say you look really sharp, Mark.
I think it's the beard, but that's just maybe.
The jacket looks good. So I'll be honest. I'm actually a little bit troubled by this, and like I can appreciate that the Lions are a really a long-standing group in the community, and they've also done so much for the community, and so. But at the same time, I'm troubled because if we give them $5,000 from this fund, that's $5,000 that another community group is not going to be able to access, and may well end up going to the Lions for some of that money, and so it kind of really rubs me as kind of inefficient, and especially when you account for like the administration costs of us processing that money. So can you help me, bridge this?
I think this is a challenge that we're faced with this current CIF model, and this is something that we're going to be bringing forward to council later on this year. And we're evidence of it last year, where at the end of the year, where we ran out of funds to support all the applications that we received. I think the model has proven successful, and that's why organizations continue to come through the CIF program looking for support. But at this point, we're starting to recognize that the pot is starting to run dry on an annual basis. And through this committee, through myself and our team, we're going to be coming forward to the council with some potential recommendations on how we can address these type of requests moving forward, and maybe revise our CIF committee so that we can be more supportive to either more organizations, or limit our support to those ones that are really in need. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer to you as to right now as to why we should support this or not, besides the historical significance and the value that the Lions have brought to the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, and I certainly do appreciate what the Lions have done for this community, so thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Montgomery. Deputy Mayor Bauer?
I just remembered my question. Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. So when looking at this, I mean, it's undisputed how much the Lions do for the town, absolutely. But it is mentioned that they have one of these awards banquets every 5 years. Have they been coming to us for money previously for the banquet, or is this the first ask?
It's my understanding that the CIF committee or fund began in about 2016. So this would be the first time that that they've come forward for this type of ask.
And have the Lions come to us for any money since the CIF grants have been available?
Ms. Simpson.
Through the chair, I can respond to that. The Lions have never requested money for their banquets in the past, not since my history or the records that I can see. Typically, we support their fundraising efforts, and this is the first time it's gone to this, and it is mostly because of the significance of the 80th anniversary. They're a very sustainable organization and rarely rely heavily on town support for their functions.
Thank you. The bulk of what I see the Lions doing within the community is volunteer hours, and most of their events are very sustainable. What jumped out at me with this event was the $3,500 for the tickets, programs, and club history video. And although I was there at the Lions event, and although I very much enjoyed the video, I just think that that's probably what the bulk of the ask is for, and so I would think that I would support that, but perhaps not the full 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Are there any other questions? Oh, Councillor Peterson.
Oh, Your Worship, just speaking to the issue for the request for decision, I have absolutely no problem in making this recommendation and moving this motion for the full amount. The Community Investment Fund has a term of reference. The Lions have clearly met it. I think that this was a one-off, their 80th charter night. I have absolutely no problem in offering them this, what is amounts to a relatively small token, acknowledging that their application has met all the criteria based on the committee, on the review committee struck by council.
Thank
And
you,
I am prepared to
Councillor
move the
Peterson.
motion.
Okay, thank you.
I would move that council approve $5,000 to the Strathmore Lions 80th Charter Night event through the Community Investment Fund.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion on the floor. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you for your presentation and your clarification tonight, Mark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Council.
Item 7.5, Proclamation Freedom to Read Week. Jennifer Sawatsky.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Will you be reading to us?
I will try. Well, no, I'll just be speaking. Your Worship, Council's received a request from the Marigold Library to proclaim
add the term ending October 31st, 2019.
Thank you for that, Councillor Montgomery. You've all heard the motion and enjoyed that motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Which, yeah, which brings us to item 7.7, appointment to Canadian Badlands. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would, the Canadian Badlands has asked for an appointment, and I do think that it is incumbent on this council that we have an appointee to that committee. I'd also like to say that I think it's really important that the person who represents council on that committee be either a member of the DMO or the Downtown Vitalization. And I think as the Downtown Vitalization is not a term referenced board as is the DMO, that it would, if she would accept the appointment, I would like to make a motion that Councillor Bauer be our representative to the Canadian Badlands. And if I might speak to the motion, Your Worship, I think that Councillor Bauer would be an obvious choice, but also would really like this council to do everything in their power to have our representative have a voting membership on that board, which has not happened in some time. So I think that it would be also incumbent on us, on our council, and the people who support council committees to work with Canadian Badlands and strategically to have one of the largest communities in Canadian Badlands, at Strathmore, have a voting member on that board. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. Deputy Mayor, are you okay with that standing?
It would be my absolute pleasure. This comes as a surprise because Councillor Peterson, I believe that you had also expressed interest in this position.
Just because I didn't see anybody coming forward.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, this is a big interest for me. Not only would I like to take the experience that I have in the Downtown Vitalization Committee, but also with Western Historical District and Communities in Bloom. I feel that this is a really good area that I'm starting to develop a little bit more expertise in. I won't call myself an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but yes, I would wholeheartedly take this on, and it would be a pleasure.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. You've heard the motion on the floor from Councillor Peterson. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And congratulations, Deputy Mayor Bauer. And thank you for doing this, too. That's very much appreciated. Just before we leave items from administration, just a question through administration. I'm wondering, Tracy, if you could take a few seconds and just publicly spell out or announce the starting times for this Saturday's grand opening for the Strathmore Motor Products Sports Centre, just in case people are at home or they see this in the paper on Thursday.
Yeah, for sure. So this Saturday, which is February 23rd, we're hosting the grand opening for the Strathmore Motor Products Sports Centre. The activities run from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. and it includes open gym times and sport demos, including a pickleball demo, flag football, a lacrosse demo, and basketball with the mayor, which is going to be really popular. We are doing a formal ribbon cutting with cake at noon in the Sports Centre, and everybody is welcome. Every activity is free to the public, and we hope everyone comes out and enjoys the new facility.
Thank you very much for that information for our public. Much appreciated. Yes, Councillor Sobel.
I don't want to put Ms. Simpson on the spot here, but there is another question while we're talking about the Sports Centre, and I know this is a little irregular, but could we just find out, could you advise council how long the turf that we've rented is going to be in our facility, or what the circumstances are? Again, please just repeat that.
So the rental turf will be in for till the end of April
of this year.
The new product has been ordered and should be in for the competitive season of lacrosse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councillor Sobel, and thank you for your clarification and information, Tracy. That brings us to item 8, committee reports. Do we have any committee reports tonight? Just a very brief one. Councillor Peterson.
I just want to say that Marigold has approved their 2019 to 2020 operating budget. The budget for 2019 is just under $5.5 million, which is 1.9% above the board-approved budget amount. So they're doing well. They're in good financial position, and they have presented their unaudited financial statements and are ready to have them done. The capital project of building the WID Marigold Joint Building is well underway, and Marigold is on schedule to begin construction in the fall of 2019. Very good news. And I just want to highlight that in order to accomplish this, they at their last general meeting, or not the general meeting, but their last group meeting, 43 municipalities come together for that meeting, and they were, I would say, extremely emotive in their praise of the community of Strathmore, all the staff, the CAO, and all the people that they had worked with to come to accomplish this, and were exceedingly grateful, and did not believe that without that support from the town of Strathmore that they could have gotten support for such a very, very big project. Consensus support from 43 different municipalities of very differing economic capacities. So congratulations to CAO Thackeray and all the people that worked so hard to bring this about, and it is coming to a very good place. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have this in writing yet, as I am not sure why I don't, but we had a Winnempsa last week, and there wasn't a ton to report, only that they are in the area more because of something that Alberta Health Services is actually doing. It's the HELO program. I'm not actually sure what the acronym stands for, neither could they remember, but it's taking one paramedic and he can look after 3 patients in the hallway. So basically our services are not being caught up in Calgary. They're actually sticking to this area, which was nice to report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corbeil. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one addition to add for the library report, which I will be forwarding on to councillors through Ms. Sawatsky later this week to be added on to the next meeting's minutes. I just want to say thank you to our mayor for showing up yesterday at the library board meeting. He was able to really take what was a situation that was uncomfortable last week in council and really set some boundaries and a new tone for us to continue working together up into the future. And so I just really want to thank him for taking the time out of his schedule and coming to the library board meeting and being so willing to collaborate. And that's something that this council is very good at, is collaboration. And then I'd also like to thank Councillor Montgomery for stepping up and being a part of the library board going forward. And I think that's going to make us even stronger.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate the two of you being on library board as well. I think you're a great partnership. You balance each other well, and I think Councillor Montgomery is going to be a good new addition to that committee. So thanks again, Deputy Mayor Bauer. That brings us to items directly related to council. I don't think we have anything. Item 10, bylaws. 10.1, bylaw number 19-04, subdivision development appeal board bylaw. Jen Sawatsky.
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration is bringing forward bylaw 1904, the SDAB bylaw, for adoption by council tonight. The new bylaw actually replaces, we had a bylaw in effect, but this replaces that bylaw, basically to reflect changes that were made in the Municipal Government Act last year, specifically around training for board members and board clerks. The new bylaw reflects that. It also kind of cleans up some of what the old bylaw had. The other thing it also does is set a remuneration for SDAB members. That's something we've never had previously, but now with the new requirement for training, there's a lot more of a time requirement of these members. So we are wanting to compensate them for that. So we are requesting that council give all 3 readings to the bylaw this evening.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would move that council give first reading to bylaw number 19-04, subdivision development appeal board bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. I have Councillor Montgomery. I can't wait.
I don't know what you're expecting. I will move that council give second reading to bylaw number 19-04, Subdivision Development Appeal Board bylaw.
Thank you. We have a motion for second reading. Is there any discussion on that? Then all
Yes.
yep, Councillor Sobel, sorry.
Yes, Your Worship, sorry. I actually, it's not a discussion as much as a question. I'm just curious as to whether or not the board is filled.
Your Worship, at this time we have 3 members, 3 appointed, so we do have enough for quorum. However, under the bylaw we want 5 members, and that's just so that we have enough people to actually get quorum when this board's called. This board isn't really called quite often. I think we haven't had a SDAB hearing, knock on wood, for a couple of years. But when it is, it's nice to have a pool of members to draw
Sure.
from.
So it's nice to get this out to the public and just, if anyone's interested in this type of a board, give Ms. Sawatsky a call.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Deputy Mayor Bauer, did you have a comment on second
I have a
reading?
question.
Okay, thank you.
And who do I direct my question to? Ms. Sawatsky? May I please ask, is the SDAB member remuneration on Schedule A, is that consistent with other boards' remuneration, council's remuneration, and what town employees are currently receiving?
Your Worship, I can't comment if it is consistent with councils. However, it is consistent. We have an assessment review board, which is the same quasi-judicial type of board, and the remuneration for the SDAB is the same as the remuneration for the ARB.
And how long ago was that remuneration increased?
Your Worship, I can't comment. I'm sorry, I'm not aware.
What I'm getting at essentially is that perhaps we should make sure that they're all aligned. I definitely agree that the assessment review board and this one should be aligned, but we should be giving members that we expect to sit on boards a similar remuneration to what we're receiving as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Seeing no other lights on, we have a motion for second reading. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the council give unanimous consent to a third and final reading of bylaw number 19-04, Subdivision Development Bylaw Board, Appeal Board Bylaw. Holy crap.
Don't worry, you'll be more smooth next week when it's Freedom to Read Week. You've all heard the motion for unanimous consent. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the council give third and final reading to, why did I even bother, but anyway, to bylaw number 19-04, Subdivision Development Appeal Board Bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. All in favor? And that motion is carried. That brings us to urgent business. I don't believe we have any urgent business. Item 12, questions between councillors and council statements. 12.1, we have Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I would like to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge a young member of our community who tragically passed away last week on Thursday, February 14th. His name is Colby Scott Allen Sakic, and it was on his 18th birthday, only miles away from his home in Bicycle, that he was involved in a car accident. As a substitute teacher, I had the pleasure of teaching Colby at Brentwood Elementary, watching him with his peers. He was always kind, caring, and compassionate. Then in his junior high years at Crowther Memorial, where his father Scott also teaches, Colby developed his leadership and athleticism. Colby could always be counted on to help others, including myself, when I had technological impairments or needed help doing attendance. Colby went on to his high school years at Strathmore High School and was on numerous teams and clubs. His friend group was large, and he was liked by everyone who knew him because of his easygoing personality and infectious smile that could also get him out of trouble in a heartbeat. Colby had been accepted to the criminal justice program in Lethbridge, which was the first step towards his hope to being an RCMP officer. The character, empathy, and kindness that would have qualified him to that task are not only tributes to the family and communities that raised him, but were the same qualities that we watched pour out of his young life for 18 years. Colby will be so greatly missed. I wish to officially send out our sincere condolences from this council and the town of Strathmore to Colby's parents, Scott and Carrie, his brother Jackson, and their many friends and family from both near and far. May peace and light replace the darkness in your hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer, for remembering him as a fine student and a good friend to many, and to be thinking of his family at this time. Thank you very much for doing that. That brings us to item 13, administrative inquiries. Sorry. Councillor Montgomery, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, thank you for saying that, Councillor Bauer. So I just wanted to remind everybody in the community about the silent auction that will be going on to support the library. The silent auction will be beginning on March 4th and will continue to March 15th. And there has been great support as far as people donating items, and I just wanted to ensure that there be kind of commensurate follow-up with people donating for those items. So there are a lot of great items, and I urge people to come out to support the library. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Montgomery. Good points.
Your Worship, just a
Councillor
question,
Sobel.
if I could ask Councillor Montgomery, would access to the auction be through the library website? Do you know?
I believe that
I don't assume so, but
they're trying to get an online component to it, and then there obviously will be like the physical inside the library.
okay, thank you.
Thank you again, councillors. That brings us to item 13, administrative inquiries. We have no administrative inquiries, and I don't believe we have to go back in camera. Ryan.
Sorry, Your Worship, I have a response to an admin inquiry. A few weeks ago, Councillor Peterson requested an update on trees planting at the Four Amigos RV Storage Development Permit, with regards to that. So Justin, who's not here, looked into that. So yeah, 24 trees in a number of clusters were required as part of the permit. Because of, we'll just call it an oversight in issuing the permit, those trees were cited on the plans were cited on a right-of-way. So Justin and staff have worked with the applicants to reconfigure it. And the plan will be to plant trees in the spring of 2019 once the plans are approved, and then set up a meeting in early 2020 just to make sure that the permit doesn't expire and to make sure that the trees are taking and surviving. So thanks to Councillor Pearson for bringing that up. Because we're a lot of new staff, some of this historical stuff gets lost, so it's great to bring this up and make sure we are getting on some of these lapsed permits. So they'll go in this spring. Oh, thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Ryan, and for all your work on this with your staff. And thank you, Councillor Peterson. That's going to go a long way to decorate and make that more beautiful, that area.
I just have a question to Legislative Services, Your Worship. Because it's not on our agenda, are we allowed still to go in camera?
Your Worship, you would have to add the item to the agenda.
It's not critical, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Tracy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have two admin inquiry responses. The first one was regarding, I believe it came from Councillor Peterson, regarding donation bins in the town's responsibility around the safety of people sleeping or getting stuck in the bins. So if the town approves placement of the bins on town land, we have a responsibility for care and control of those bins. Currently, we have bins in only one location on town property, which is at the Family Center, and we're looking at implementing some procedures around staff checking them on them more regularly to ensure there are no issues. For ones that are outside of our property, there's not really much the town council or the town has the authority around, unless it becomes a public safety hazard, and then that way to reduce, more around reducing sight line of traffic or pedestrian safety, not necessarily about people using the bins to stay worn. We could have a conversation with property owners who have them at council's direction to educate them on some of the risks that are associated with the cold weather and the homeless population. But at this time, we don't believe there's any liability issues for the town. And I have a second one. Let me just pull it up here. A few weeks ago, Councillor Bauer inquired about the Sobeys indoor walking track at the Strathmore Motor Products Sports Centre. We have measured the track, and the outside lane is 199 meters, so not quite 200. It was always designed to be a leisure track and not a competition track, and that's most likely the reason for the error in the 1 meter. That is the outside lane, and the inside lane is 173 meters. When we get permanent signage up there, we will ensure that those distances are included and communicated to the public.
Tracy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is the track supposed to go clockwise? Because everyone always goes counterclockwise, and there's like...
Yeah, so we alternate days, and we do that for a number of reasons. And once we have permanent signage, it will dictate which direction you go. The one reason is actually for repetitive use users. If you run in only one direction, you'll start to get repetitive injuries on your hips and your knees. And so we're trying to encourage kind of changing that up for our regular users. It also, over a long period of time, if everybody only ever uses it in one direction, the floor will eventually start to shift, and that's obviously not good. And so changing it up every day gives it a bit more stability.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Deputy Mayor Bauer.
So I just want to ask Tracy, so there was a letter or a printout that did go to the public regarding the lanes, and it said that the inside lane was 151 meters and that the blue lane was 166. So you're just clarifying right now that it is indeed 199. And will this form that went out to the public be changed as well?
For sure. I'm not 100% sure what form you're talking about,
So
but we will make sure it's updated.
I'll pass it on to you for sure.
Thank you.
And let you know what it looks
absolutely.
like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Bauer and Councillor Montgomery. And Tracy, thank you for your work on that. Much appreciated. That brings us to Councillor Corbeil.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn, and I'd like to just thank Councillor Montgomery for his donation of beautiful tulips tonight. And we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? And we are adjourning at 8:19.